Nathan Hilt. We're here at Money 2020, and we're talking about a subject that is on the minds of many people with cannabis and payments. And I'm here with Kirsten Trusko, and we're going to ask a few questions and have a conversation around that. Kirsten, thank you for joining me. I have a few questions here. I will say the little caveat that, this is if legislation reform takes place. It's on a lot of people's minds of when and how that might happen. But the first question is to kind of level set is, what do you see are the primary issues related to electronic payments in this industry that's evolving?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. Fascinating topic. One of the key challenges in electronic payments on this topic is most people think of payments related to the card networks, to the kinds of ways that we as consumers spend money all day long. This market is cash-based for a number of reasons. So until we can get the rules set to enable electronic payments and use of the regular payment tools that we have, it's going to continue to be cash-based. And cash is opaque. That kind of market attracts folks that don't like transparency, they don't like legislation, regulation. So the Emerging Markets Coalition, the 501c6 that I co-founded, is designed to bring the cannabis-related markets and the financial services together to set the highest bar for regulatory and compliance so that everything, every dollar becomes transparent, trackable, traceable, taxable. And from meeting with financial services and meeting with the cannabis-related industry folks, they want that. The legitimate players want that transparency. They want partnering with fintech and financial services to have normalized banking, just like the rest of us do. And that's a message that has resonated on the Hill. It's resonated in New York with the banks and with the cannabis-related businesses.
Fascinating, yes. I'm always interested in anything that's cash-based because of what all we're doing here in payments. And so I think that segues nicely to the next question, which is what has happened in the short term and kind of where are things as they progress? What's on the slate in the long term? So short-term progress and what's on the slate going forward?
So longer term is to have normalized banking. So you run a business of any type, you need investment banking, you need insurance, you need payments, you need core banking. Right now is the shorter term objective is to have the rules and the regulations and the media and the communities open to this industry and to normalizing the banking in it. And over time it will grow. It's a huge industry, but right now we've got to convert the cash to electronic payments and normalize the payments so we can track it.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. And are there things queued up in order to make that happen? Are we just in the exploratory kind of information exchange, or where are things in the politician's mind and some of the financial institutions?
That is the number one question we get, right? So there's lots of interesting things going on in our politics now, just collectively with the US. Getting to spend a lot of time on the Hill with the House and the Senate, Dems, Republicans, far-right conservatives, far-left liberals, the agreement, even an Emerging Markets Coalition doesn't take a position on legalizing it. We're trying to get the cash off the streets. But ubiquitously, there's a recognition that we need to get the cash off the streets, but we need to set the rules in such a way that it's very specific, it's easier to follow, and that will attract more of the traditional players in.
Okay, that's good. And so I think this is a good segue on the next question is, what can those participants and organizations do to help move this from a cash-based business? Is it something where you have to have a nonprofit in order to have that neutral voice, or are there things that if I am interested and there is an organization, what do I do about it?
So one of the reasons for founding Emerging Markets Coalition was to take heavily cash-based, highly regulated, underserved industries and normalize. So it's bringing the voices together, whether you're in financial services or cannabis related or you're processing, there's all kinds of pieces of the value chain on financial services and the value chain on the cannabis related. And coming together under this not-for-profit, so you've got a collective voice, and the power of this collective voice that's fact-based, rational, very process-driven, so that each of the businesses, if they choose, to participate knows exactly what it is they need to be doing, and by having both pieces under the same tent, you get the cleanest players, the most precise rules and players, and there's a lot of partnering that goes on. I mean, I think in a previous life, I ran the Trade Coalition for Prepaid at a time when it was similar, where there wasn't fully legislated or regulated. There was a lot of vilification in the media, a lot of misinformation. So by bringing these two pieces together and attracting in the highest ethics, the highest compliance, the highest transparency, by being part of the organization, that's what you're getting, is the best players. And that has resonated so well on the Hill and with media, is these are the cleanest, most compliant, partnering together for this voice.
Right. Well, and it did so much for the prepaid industry once that level set was done. And you see today, the growth in prepaid. I'm always amazed at what's out there. So who knows what the industry will be here for cannabis if kind of that level set happens. The next question is, and I think you touched on this a little bit, but with cash, right, it's opaque, totally agree, but what risks are exacerbated by the fact that you have all this cash in the system supporting this industry? I mean, from your perspective, if you could list out a few of the risks, that'd be great.
So anytime you've got a lot of cash, there's a security risk in that, right? And this is a lot of cash. And one of the things that really attracted me in and agreeing to co-found this organization, the pro bono work I do is in anti-human trafficking. And we had a case that came in where a lot of the money into that criminal group was coming from this cannabis operation. And it was cash. You couldn't track it, you couldn't trace it, you couldn't follow the money trail. And because it's a Schedule I, a lot of people say, well, I just can't, clients, right? I can't touch it. Well, it's here. Yes. Whether or not you believe it should be illegal, we'll set that aside. You've got billions of dollars of cash sloshing around. And because it's Schedule I, you've got folks that just don't, usually responsible adults who will come and solve a cash-based problem, have a hesitancy to it.
Yeah. Well, I do think being here at Money 2020, that anything that's cash-based, the whole purpose of here is to electronify those payments in some way, shape, or form, and the industry has done so well. I mean, you go to the fintechs, you walk around here, there's an amazing potential on all they've done around fraud, and anti-money laundering, sanction screening, etc. There's a power that I feel that is not being tapped into because it is so cash-based.
Well, and all those points you were making on the anti-money laundering and fraud and all of that, our law enforcement friends are saying, please make it electronic, because then we can see it, we can track it, we can trace it. The government folks, we can tax it properly. So there's so much power and energy here, and I was delighted that Money 2020 added the cannabis banking as a topic. And it started off, it was added about a month ago, and we did our session on Sunday morning, 10 a.m. in Vegas, right? You're not thinking anybody's going to show up, and it was packed, absolutely packed. So it is a hot topic. There's a lot of opportunity for fintech and financial services. There's also a greater good. We are helping to solve a problem of this cash-based industry. And if we don't do it, the people who understand financial services and exactly how to track and trace every dollar, if we don't do it, who's going to do it, right? So it is this greater good, which I think resonates with a lot of people too.
Yeah, I agree. So the last question, and this is kind of exactly the segue into it, how should the cannabis industry as a whole work with cyber, law enforcement, regulators to legitimize this cash-based payment into something that accomplishes all you've talked about? Like, what can they do?
So in my past experience and what we're finding now, entirely transparent. If we, as the industry, whether it's the cannabis side or the fintech financial services side, if we are out front and being entirely transparent with what we're doing, proactively meeting with legislators, regulators, law enforcement, media, consumer groups, community groups, and saying, we're bringing the good guys together to take that cash off the street, it's a huge opportunity, and we need to be the ones executing on that.
I agree. I think there's a lot to do in the future. I'm excited to see what happens. I really thank you for taking the time, and nice speaking with you, Kirsten.
Pleasure. Thank
you
you
so much.